Hello people, welcome to GSLogs. In the last video we explored user state and use effect. Those basically the foundation of React hooks. Today we are going to level up and we're going to explore two more hooks. It's gonna be use context and useRef. Right, then let's dive right in, right? So let's start with use context. So what problem does it solve, right? So let's imagine that you have an app and it has two modes, two themes, dark mode and light mode, right? Just like this app, it has light mode and a dark mode. So what you would have to do normally is you have to pass down props to the child to multiple components through props, which can become very messy over time and it's gonna become like super annoying in the long run. So how do we solve that problem? So with use context, you can basically avoid drilling down the props and provide a context to different components without passing it through the props. Let me explain how that works, right? I'll show it to the code. All right. So let's just say, how do I create a context first, right? So let's just start with the context, that theme context. So we have a function called create context by React. Okay, C is supposed to be lower. So create context. So we create a theme context and then we have to create a provider, right? So basically the provider is what provides different components, the value that is stored in the theme context. Let me just explain that via code, which is better. So function theme provider, right? And it's a function, simple function that accepts children, right? Since it's a function, normal function, then we don't need to do that, right? So what does it do? What do I need, right? So first thing I need is a theme state, so that set theme, so that as explained, like to remember the value, we need to use user state so that the component remembers what is the value of that certain variable. So let's start with light, right? The default is going to be light theme. And what do we do is another function. Let's define a function called toggle theme. What does it do? Doesn't too much. It only does one thing, and it says, okay, set theme, but it checks for if theme is equal to light, then we set it to dark. Otherwise, we say go back to light. So it's gonna be dark, right? So this is super simple toggle theme. And what do we return here? So for the theme context, if we look at the theme context, it has a thing called, it's a like exported child called provider, right? Provider, and we can just copy it exactly, and let's close it. And what does it do? So we have a children, right? So as I said, like we need to provide this value to the children, and that happens via this provider. But we still have to define the value that we are providing, right? So if I have like a value here which accepts this, what do I want the other components to have is the value of the theme. So let's do that first. right? I want them to be able to access the theme, and I want them to be able to toggle the theme from anywhere, right? So this is a very simple theme provider for us. And then how does it work further? Take it back on the same place. All right. So after that, what we can do is, so we have defined the theme context. We have defined the theme provider. How do we use it, right? I have a state right now, and I have a toggle theme. Let's create a simple button and just say mm, const themed button, which which is equal to, let's say it returns a simple button that does it do change theme. So all right, so for that, what do I have to do to basically access this, right? So the first thing that I have to do is obviously call my button. It's not there anymore right now on the screen. So let's call the button. So it says, okay, change theme. That's fine. That's good. How do I provide that value? I have to wrap this. It's accepting children. So I have to wrap that my theme provider theme button with the theme provider. So anything that is inside this theme provider is considered a children, right? And they can access this theme context inside it, right? Let's say, let me define one function called use theme context, right? And what does that do? It doesn't do anything. It only says that use context. So this is a function that React provides us. This is simply that you can import similar to create context. We have use context. And which context do we want to use? We want to use the theme context, right? So we pass in the theme context. Super simple. So now I have a use theme context that I can use anywhere in the app. Let's say in here I want to define it. So whatever I pass here in the value, this is anything that is here. I can access that using this theme context. Let's just to demonstrate that, let's just copy this, copy here, and just use this exactly. Just call it, call this, and now I can see, I should be able to see the current theme, and you see there it is. So we can see the current theme is light. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to change the theme, right? So let's call the on click simple toggle theme, right? So now I'm expecting that when I click it, the theme will change from light to dark, and we will see the kind of change the value, right? If I click on it, it changes to dark. I click on it, it changes to light, right? Right now it's only in a single component, and I didn't have to pass any prop to it. It is accessing the theme value from a global context, global state that can be passed, that can be used in multiple components. Let's just say that I have another button, let's just say theme button 2, right? And change theme button 2, right? So let's just say that another button, and I have this, right? Change theme button 2. Let's just, maybe we can do this, right? Let's have them on two different lines. So what do I want to do? Let's define some styles so that we can see what exactly happens. So background, let's say if theme equal to dark, then it should be black. Otherwise, it should be, oh, my bad, white, right? So very simple. So right now I have this condition based on the theme and theme 2. What happens if I click on it? It changes to black, and the theme value also changes to dark in here. I click here on the second button, the theme changes to light, and the button changes as well, right? So this is what it does, right? I didn't have to pass the theme via props to any of the button, and this state is also being shared by many components, right? So if I change it from theme 2, then it also changes in theme button 1. Similarly, if I change here, then it also changes in the second button. So this is basically how you use the theme context to avoid or solve the prop drilling or prop passing to multiple levels, multiple component. We use context for that. So this is use context in action. This is how it works, right? I hope that was a bit easy to understand now, and you know how it works. Moving on to the next part. Let's just say, all right, let me just save this one first, right? So let's save this and let's call it use context react hook use context, right? All right. So that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. So now we move on to the next one, which is gonna be useRef, right? Why do we use useRef? What is the reason? What does it solve? So let's assume that you have a element. What could that element be? Let's say you have a session, right? You have a session that's gonna start in like 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever, anything that's gonna start, and you want to show a timer before that starts. That okay, it's gonna be like 2 minutes left, 1 minute 50 seconds left, so it changes over time. Or you want a input field, so when you click a button, you want that input field to be focused, right? But you don't want the component to render itself. You can use useRef for that purpose. You want to avoid rendering the component, but you still want some control over an element and to kind of preserve its value, right? You can use useRef for that purpose. How does that work? Let's get into that, right? So I'm going to reset this, right? Let's reset. All right, amazing. We're back to the initial state. Okay, let's think about an input, right? Const uh, focused input. And how does that work? It's super simple input that returns an input and a button that says focus the input, and let's see, all right, and we call focused input here, return here, and very simple. We seem to have made some kind of mistake. I don't. We div and then focused input that does not necessarily accept anything, but we seem to have some kind of a problem. Console, right? and look at the errors. Okay, it says that I have a inline wrapped in enclosing tags. What was? Ah, okay. Makes sense, my bad. So it needs to have a single parent. So kind of, yeah, of course. Makes sense. My bad. Okay, then we go back to simple info. All right, so now we see that we have a focused input and a simple input. What I want to do is I want to focus this input whenever this is clicked. Let's say that you have a form and you're running some validation, and on the click of a submit, you want to kind of check it. And if it's not correct, then you want to focus the input and show the user that, okay, this is the input that is not correct and you need to fix the value. So how do you do that without re-rendering the form, without losing the values that are already pre-filled by the user? So what do you do, right? So that's where the useRef comes in, that you can use it. useRef is of course like, let me just say input ref, and useRef is, this is the hook. So initial value can be null. And how do you set it? So any input, any component has a property called ref, and you can set the input ref like this, right? So there are two things that you should not do. Is you should not access the ref during the rendering. Like for example, if I try to access it right now with the console.log.current, then this is gonna be null, right? You see null and current null. So this is never gonna be defined if you access it during rendering. So this is one of the pitfall of using useRef. You should always use doing two things, either in a use effect when the first render is complete and the things are already on the screen, or you can use it in a callback. Right, we're going to use it inside a callback called focus input, and what does have that do? Input dot current dot focus. Super simple. We just want to focus it. So what do? We say on click focus input, right? So now I'm expecting that when I click this button, it's going to focus this input, right? So, and it does not re-render as well. So let's see, okay, that worked. It did focus the input, and let's just also look at the re-rendering. Let's say, okay, console.log, and did I render? All right. Okay, so let's say, let's clear it out, and if I click on it, I should not see this message, because the main benefit of having useRef is that it does not re-render the component, right? So if I click on it, so it is focused, the state, kind of the component changed, but we don't see any log here because useRef does not re-render the component. It gives you access to the DOM element itself, which you can manipulate based on certain action. But as I said again, there are two conditions that you should not do. One, access it during render, or access it before it is defined. So these are two things you should avoid. And so this is how you use useRef and what is the purpose of it. I hope that was easier. to understand, and I was able to explain it. So these are the two that we wanted to cover, and in the next video we're going to cover two more hooks. So stay tuned for that, and let me know if you want something else that I should cover or something that you're not sure about. Or any question, leave them down in the comment below, and I will try my best to answer. And any topic that you want me to cover, I would gladly cover that as well. Thank you so much for joining. See you in the next video.